what's up? Happy Friday. If you're really into football, and I would imagine that you are if you're watching this in the third week of February, then you'll know about these next-gen stats layouts that the NFL offers now for where the quarterbacks throw over the course of a given game. It's dots that end up showing the targets, the air targets. And if the dot is green, that means it was a completion. If it's red, you get the idea. Well, I want to talk about those dots and how they relate to this team and its identity today. Good afternoon to you. Good Friday afternoon. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is the new Double Shot Show. It comes your way every weekday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern. If I wanted one way, just one, to describe the way Justin Fields gradually worked his way into taking over this offense, I would use these charts. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One is it would underscore the accuracy with which he threw the football. Accuracy cannot always be gauged by simple completion percentage. There are now ways to do that more scientifically, more accurately. And he started to get really good, and it really wasn't until week 5 that he started to misfire on just a handful of passes. Week 6, that kind of lingered a bit for him. But the main thing that jumped out was that, and you'll remember this, the first week or two or week and a half, his next-gen stats charts had everything pulled off to either side. It was sideline this, sideline that. And it looked a whole lot like, let's say what you're thinking here, Matt Canada. And Canada was terrified of the middle of the field. And I have no doubt whatsoever that got a hearty endorsement from Mike Tomlin, because they were just looking for ways to avoid the middle, just avoid the interception. Whatever it is that you do out there as an offense, just exist. Don't turn the ball over, and I'll just try to let the defense win the game for me. That comes from Tomlin. Well, then, crazy thing happened. Arthur Smith began working with Fields and the wide receivers and everybody else toward aiming a little bit more toward the middle. And then they started aiming significantly more toward the middle because you can imagine opponents have gotten used to facing the Steelers without ever having to worry about even to defend that part of the field. So why take away your own option? And they went at it. And Justin made some good throws. He made some completions. He made some things happen over the middle. If I had to rate the top 10 passes that the Steelers threw across the middle, and I'm talking about right over the middle, like right into the heart of the opposing defense, Justin probably had 8 out of those 10. Now, that's in part because Russell Wilson has never liked throwing to the middle of the field. You need this. This is the only point that I've got for you on this count today. I'm not here to, bring up the whole quarterback versus quarterback thing or whatever. This team needs to be able to attack the vertical middle of the field. Now, this is something you and I talk about all through the season. And for whatever reason, the offseason comes along and we don't really think about it anymore. But when I'm thinking about the identity, way more important than that, when they're thinking about the identity that they want to have, I'm not guessing at this, they don't feel like they want to attack the middle. They feel like they need to. They need to be able to use the whole field in order to maximize their offense. They felt, again, on the inside, they were getting somewhere with this. Then the head coach makes change, and you know the rest of this story. When we come back, we'll be joined by Chris Halleck.
At DK Pittsburgh Sports, we take pride in coverage that connects our city's fans to their favorite teams. Now, that connection's stronger than ever. Introducing our all-new state-of-the-art app. Find expert inside reporting and original podcasts. Check live box scores. Track the latest stats. Chat it up with our community of thousands of fans, all in one place. The new app from DK Pittsburgh Sports. Coverage that connects.
Joined now by Chris Halleck, who, like me, is still recovering from last night's hockey loss.
Yeah, it was rough.
Yeah, it was actually.
Yeah, that was rough.
It's like, if everyone can forgive us for just a second here, the United States program gets like this, it gets like this, and you say it's right there, and they have the better defensemen, and they have the better goaltending by far, and they have a really good set of forwards, and then something just goes wrong. Matthew Tkachuk gets hurt, and the other side has Connor McDavid and Nathan McKinnon, and some other dude plays for Pittsburgh. And it's like, you just go, wow, really?
Yeah, it was. What's really painful is, Austin Matthews for the United States was just not great. But the one thing that he kind of consistently did was that he was often in pretty good position for a centerman, and on the game-winning goal, just completely left Connor McDavid alone.
What's funny is all these people, these football people like yourself, who were talking about this game last night on social media, they were equating Canada's winning goal with football coverage. Did you see any of that? It was pretty cool. Like guys like Warren Sharp, JJ Watt, whatever. And they're like, was he really supposed to leave that guy open? Because that's a football thing.
Yeah.
And actually, the football parallel there is even better than any good hockey parallel that you could come up with.
Yep.
Because Matthews was on McDavid. He was there.
Yep.
And then he said, no, I'm going to go after the guy making the pass. No. Dude, no.
There's one spot you can't leave open in hockey. It's the slot. You just cannot, especially when the best player in the world is literally standing right in it.
Okay. So anyway,
the middle of the ice.
The middle of the ice equates in some ways to the middle of the field, in that it can be the most dangerous area, the most vulnerable area, even though it might not look like it. Chris, in the vaguest possible sense, meaning not necessarily Justin Fields versus Russell Wilson, but in the vaguest possible sense, why is it valuable for an offense like the Steelers have, like the Arthur Smith offense, to go at that area?
Well, I mean, obviously, because you want to keep the defense honest. I mean, you're talking about absolute basic stuff. You want to be able to attack all areas. You don't want to just focus on, going to the sidelines or going outside the numbers all the time. You want to be able to, and plus, yes, like it can be a high traffic area, but it's also an area where you can probably get the most amount of, as football people like to say, yak, or just yards after catch, because there's a lot of in-breaking routes. Those in-breaking routes go to the middle of the field. Receivers can catch the ball in stride, and they can then rack up yards after the catch. Yeah. So, but also, like, just again, if you just want to do nothing but target, outside the numbers, that becomes really easy for defenses to take away. You got to be able to attack all areas of the field, and that way defenses, can't just be like, okay, well, we know they're not going to go, to this side. On third down, they never throw to this area, or on first down, or whatever situation that they tend to throw here or here. You want to keep defenses honest. You want to be able to attack them anywhere, and the middle of the field produces a lot of opportunities to, like I said, produce yards after catch, and so it's an area they need to attack more often. That's for sure.
Well, okay, now I'm going to get specific, because now let's say you started getting better at that with your quarterback that you opened the season with, and we saw those numbers, we saw those charts. Justin Fields started hitting the middle. All right, then you pull the plug on that process. You bring in Russell Wilson, who not only has always hated throwing to the middle of the field. I mean, that goes back to Seattle days. But also, more often than not, has to exit the pocket to the left or to the right, which even further advertises where it is, which side he's going to end up picking. Now, there were a lot of different things that he could do when he was younger and he was a Seahawk and everything that weren't there afterward. How much did that play into one thing that you complained about louder than anybody, which is that the only passes that worked were the bombs, were the prayers, the moon balls. How much did that force the Steelers' hand into whatever? Let's just put it up in the air and see who comes down with it.
Well, I mean, you can only do the easiest way to put it is that you can only do what the quarterback is going to do. What the quarterback
I love how flustered this subject makes you. It's awesome.
It is frustrating because the one thing that I was concerned about the moment that they signed Russell Wilson, because I began to actually just digest it, to look at it. And ironically enough, earlier today, without even knowing what we were going to talk about, I did happen to just go back and read about this stuff just to see, okay, were my concerns valid? And they were, because Arthur Smith, when he was in Tennessee with Ryan Tannehill and those guys, he liked to attack the middle of the field. If you look at the heat map of where the targets were, he liked to attack the middle of the field.
Yes.
And Russell Wilson, you look at his heat map, he does not. And so it just seemed like it was going to be a situation in which they were going to butt heads. And that's exactly what happened, because, and the most frustrating thing about that is if you actually look at Russ's numbers when he does attack the middle of the field, they're actually pretty good. And that's pretty consistent with what he did in Seattle, with what he did in Denver. The problem is that he doesn't target it that often. And when he does, like you mentioned, he has to get out of the pocket because he often enough can't see that area of the field because he's only 5'10", 5'11". So it's frustrating because it takes away the ability to be able to call certain things, to call certain concepts, and it then kind of handcuffs you in what you can do. And it also, like I said, it makes it easier for the defense. If they know, as the Ravens coach like to put it, with Russ, it's only layups or three-pointers, you're taking away an ability to attack a certain area of the field that then makes the defense more honest.
Yeah, and that also takes Pat Freiermuth and Darnell Washington out of the offense as well. And it takes some of the other, more inventive routes out of the equation. Meaning, and I think this is what you were getting at here, whether it's a Calvin Austin or before him a Deontay Johnson, where they could hit that seam and then get it and then go, because you have multiple options from there. You're not just, I got to bolt up the sideline.
Yeah.
Okay. They have different ways that they can break, and it's much, 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 much harder to defend them. Now, if you go back, though, I'm going to do devil's advocate here with you. If I say to you, all right, well, listen, if they really believe in Justin Fields being able to throw to this part of the field, why didn't they let him do it for the first couple of games?
Well, so obviously, week one, the game plan was to not target that area of the field. Because, well, not only that, but because Atlanta has a great safety duo, and Mike Tomlin was very open about that. It's like, we just weren't going to throw there because we're not going to let that game wrecker be a game wrecker, and mission accomplished. They didn't let him become a game wrecker, and they won the football game. So mission accomplished. The other part of that is when an offensive coordinator is installing an offense, he is going to be installing the offense primarily for who the starting quarterback, the starting running back, those guys. And so Russell Wilson had pole position all throughout the offseason into training camp. And so I know, but so Arthur Smith is then going to install and design and base his offense around Russ's strengths. Justin Fields comes in because he has to, because of the injury, and that's not necessarily the exact way that he plays. So he has to play within the system that he's playing in. So that's just what he has to do. And you can't, this is I like, sometimes I'll get questions and like some people are like, well, can't they just move this guy to this position, or can't they just throw this part out of the part of the playbook out and put this new play? It's like, it's not that easy. This isn't playing Madden here. Installing an offense is a very complicated process, and there's not enough time on the show to even try to dive into it. But that's one of the reasons why, is that it's just not the way it was designed. Now, if they bring Justin Fields back and he's going to be the guy, Arthur Smith can then sit in his office and he can design and install the offense around Justin.
All summer. And that's one of the things that I think would actually be potentially exciting about the 2025 season. And what a lot of people wouldn't understand is that, like you said, Arthur had to pivot not once, but twice.
Mm-hmm.
And he had to pivot in action. Like he wasn't doing it like in OTAs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he had to do it right up against the season opener in Atlanta and then doubly pivot because of like what you just brought up about the Falcons safeties. And then, wait, Russ? Really? We're putting Russ in? Wait, okay, all right. Yes, coach. Sure, okay. And then redo it all over again. And I can completely empathize with that while also appreciating what it could mean to have everybody and every component of this offense. And as Art Rooney told us about a month ago, not only that, but have a quarterback room that's got more than one guy in this vein. So now you have everybody practicing the same offense. You have everybody, the offensive linemen are getting used to a certain type of quarterback behind them. Everybody gets stronger. Everything becomes more predictable, but I mean that in a good way. That's a positive. Sign him. That's what I'm saying here. Sign him, Chris. You get it done.
I'm as much as people like to try to think like, Chris, you should be the GM. Like every time I say something good, like, dude, I'm not a GM. But I think the other part of it is, just to add one more point, is I do think that if you look at Justin's play in Chicago, his numbers throwing to the middle of the field were not good. And so I don't think that they were just going to throw him out there and be like, all right, buddy, we're just going to let you throw to the middle of the field. Keep doing what you were doing in Chicago. I think they were trying to help him along, help him do certain things differently so that it helped open the middle of the field up more for him, because same as Russ, when he attacked the middle of the field, when he did throw to the middle of the field, his numbers in Pittsburgh were significantly better than they ever were in Chicago. And so that, again, is one of those things that you want to hope that if they do bring him back and do re-sign him, that you can continue to build off of that and Arthur can get back to some of the things that he did really well in Tennessee.
When we come back, J1Q.
Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different. Help prevent gun accidents, misuse, and theft. Keep firearms safe and secure when not in use. For safe storage options, visit projectchildsafe.org.
It's time now for J1Q. That stands for just one question. And on Fridays, that only means one thing.
The PEF is back with another question for you, DK. Now, we're talking about George Pickens. We're all in doubt that he's going to get that contract extension going into the final year of his rookie deal. But there's another wide receiver going into the final year of his rookie deal, and that's Calvin Austin. DK, what do you think are the odds of him getting that extension before the 2025 season?
Ooh. See, one of the many things that I love about you, the PEF, is that you'll ask questions on subjects that I didn't even know were subjects. I spend so much time with Cal, probably more than with any other player in that locker room. I did not know until you asked this that it was a contract year for him. Now, I don't know that it's going to be a big deal, meaning, generally speaking, you're going to go into the summer in advance of a contract year with someone feeling urgency if it's some bigger name or someone more prominent in your organization, respectfully, than Cal. With Cal, I think you're going to want to see the Steelers have him prove it, have him continue advancing, have him continue showing that he can do different things in your offense in addition to being your punt returner. Here's what I'm going to tell you, the PEF, about Cal. And this is not coming from him. This is coming from elsewhere inside that building. There is a firmly held belief that he can be and should be this team's longer term number 3 wide receiver. Now, for those of you who think of this sort of thing only in the context of depth charts, that's going to sound like an insult. It's not. It's not. In the Arthur Smith offense, there is a role for a 3. And they believe that he can handle that role at a high level. For one, there's the obvious natural talents that he has. He's incredibly fast. He's unbelievably tough, actually too tough for his own good at times, the kind of hits that he takes. He's able to get the yards after the catch. He's got all that. And the other reason for it is that he's just that type of committed athlete that he keeps getting better. He's mature. He's anything but your diva type. And there's a piece of his game. There's a route. There's a type of catch, a type of play that he'll add to his repertoire. And that'll be his focus the focus for the week is beating whoever it is that you're playing. But within that, becoming a better player, that's one of the conversations he and I regularly have. I'm going to have him on this show. It's just, he and I have been talking about this stuff forever, that it'd be much cooler if you heard it between me and him directly here. But he finds a way to take his level of game up a notch consistently. And they love that about him. They love that. They love that he's been able to go out there and run routes that they didn't even have designed for him. He just said, hey, let me try that one. And he would try it and it would succeed. So putting a cap on him in any kind, or a low ceiling on him, is a mistake. They love him. That said, not to make anybody mad here or whatever, but I'm not sure that if I'm Omar Khan, if I'm looking at this from Omar's perspective, that I would feel any sort of, oh no, got to get him signed. Let him play another year of football. And yes, absolutely, get him a second contract if and when he performs as expected. Good stuff, the PEF. Good stuff from everybody all week. Appreciate your J1Qs. Make sure you get those to me in video form, around 30 seconds or so. Email me, dk@dkpittsburghsports.com. Spell all that out. And we will be back here on Monday.